Video, present. So thanks everybody for coming to our Why Electrical Engineering and Internship Experience workshop. A special thanks to our guest speakers, Mo, Eric, and Frankie, who will be talking about their internship experiences later on. So Frankie is taking a midterm right now, but he will join us as soon as he finishes. So our agenda for this workshop will be, first, we'll talk a little bit about IEEE, just in case people aren't aware of it, and then also talk about our Discord, go into a brief overview of what electrical engineering is in general, and then talk about why you should pick electrical engineering as your major and why you would want to do it as your major. And then we'll talk about our guest speakers' various internship experiences. So Mo, Eric, and Frankie will talk about that. And then we'll go into any questions and open it up to you guys. So just in case you guys don't know, what is IEEE? So we're the Institute of Electrical and Electronical Engineers. It's the world's largest technical organization. It's all over the world, and we have a student branch at Cal State Long Beach. Our student branch has around 300 members now. So if you want to learn more about our workshops and events that are coming up, please join our Discord if you haven't already. The QR code is to the right of the screen. Just a brief overview, we have 2 projects that are still recruiting. So a drone/rocket project, and then the hybrid car with SAE. So the drone is with AIAA, and the hybrid car is with SAE. So if you want to know more about that, please check our general channel and just ask in there. Or you can scroll up a little bit, and the links for those are in there. And we also have another project going on, which is MicroMouse. Unfortunately, sign up for that is already closed, so we're already starting working on that. But if you were interested in that for next year, just keep a lookout. So what exactly is electrical engineering, right? So if you look at the textbook definition from Wikipedia, it's basically the study of using electricity and electromagnetism. That just seems like a very generic and broad definition, right? But electrical engineering itself is just a very broad topic, and it encompasses many different industries, technologies. So it has to be, the definition has to be so broad. Because it's a broad topic, there's so many different things you can do in electrical engineer, as an electrical engineer. You can go work in control systems, power, electronics, telecommunications, signals. You can even go into the medical field and work on medical systems. So it just opens up a bunch of doors for you. And so these things that I just mentioned, those are the possible emphases that you can have at Cal State Long Beach. There's more options available, but these are just the ones that Cal State Long Beach offers. So why else would you want to do electrical engineering? Electrical engineers get paid around $98,000 on average, right? So this is according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So this takes into account just starting off as an electrical engineer level 1 versus working like 30 years and being an electrical engineer like level 5. So it's an average of that. So keep in mind it might be skewed a little bit. Also keep in mind that this is across the whole United States. So there's some areas where your pay will be higher because of the cost of living versus some other areas where it'll be lower. So just keep that in mind. So they do get paid pretty well though. And on your right side, you'll see some examples of companies that recruit heavily in the SoCal area for electrical engineers. And as you can see, defense and space and aircraft are a big part of the electrical engineering industry in the SoCal area, but there's more opportunities than just space and defense. You can work in a wide variety of fields. So Northrop is, of course, defense space, Raytheon space defense, Boeing aviation space, Lockheed same. BAE is also defense space. Black and VH, I probably butchered that, sorry. That's a construction company. So they're also looking for electrical engineers. And then Power Engineers is also consulting. Sorry, I think Black and VH is also consulting, and Power Engineers is also consulting. And then Harris Corporation is, of course, defense. So these are all the median salaries on the right side. So, sorry, not median. entry-level salaries on the right side. So coming in as an electrical engineer one, what are you kind of expecting, right? Starting out. So as you can see, it's all in the 70 to 80K range, which is pretty good, especially with just coming fresh from college with no experience. So why else would you want to pick electrical engineering, right? Well, if you get a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, it prepares you for like a wide variety of jobs, right? So you can either go into hardware or software. You can choose. If you go into hardware, you can expect to work like utilities, embedded applications, aircraft, space, automotive, wide variety of fields that like involve physically doing something. So like what it says, like hardware, right? So utilities, you can work on transmission, distribution, power generation, or you can go into embedded applications. So you can go work for like Apple, Amazon, working on the physical hardware for those companies. And of course, you can go into aircraft space, so working on like the avionics or the electrical system of like satellites or planes, stuff like missiles, stuff like that. And automotive, of course, you can go work for like Tesla, working on like the EV vehicles, or you can still work on commercial internal combustion engine vehicles because they all involve some form of electronics. So just a wide variety of options for hardware. And then, of course, on the same thing, software also has tons of options. So you can work machine learning, artificial intelligence, working on like the nodes for that. You can go work on firmware, which closely ties into the hardware. So it'd be both the hardware and software in that respect. And then you can also do a normal like software engineering job. So you can just work on just completely all software. You don't have to touch any hardware if you don't like want to. And so, or you can have a mix. So I think if you guys attended our professional speaker workshop last week when we had Calvin Lee, he talked about how he is an electrical engineer and he's working on systems engineering for Northrop for space, but he also like splits his time between working on software projects too. So you can do both. It's the best of both worlds, in my opinion. And so, like I mentioned before, electrical engineering just has a wide scope, and you can almost do anything in any industry. Like any industry that you want to work in, they probably need an electrical engineer. So you can go work commercial, military, medical, consumers. So it just a wide variety of fields, and it just leaves a lot of doors open for you. And so now we'll let our guest speakers talk about their research and internship experiences. So our first guest speaker is Mo. Mo, do you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your research and your internships with Northrop?
Sure. Hi, I'm Mo Fakro, and I'm finishing up my last semester here at Long Beach. And throughout my college career, I've worked in research, I've done some contracting, and I've also worked in industry for Northrop. Uh, Ever since like my first year, I kind of realized I wouldn't get any internships right at the beginning. So instead, I joined a research lab, and I started with Build because it paid you, and that's pretty nice because if you just go up to a professor and say, "Hey, I want to work with you," chances are you wouldn't get paid unless you're working a project that's being funded by a different program or a different company, something like that. So I worked under Dr. Ahmed, which is a professor in RE department. And from there, I got to see how a lot of different classes came together. The first project I worked on there was a data acquisition system. And I got to see how like DSP worked, and we were sampling signals and whatever. And it was a very interesting project. I got to learn a lot. Uh, Now, next company I worked with, I had a personal connection with, and they contacted me to build a PCB for them. And then I've done PCB design in the past, both in research and for personal hobbies. And my contact pretty much vouched for my ability, which is why they hired me. And it was a quick job, which took me about like 13 hours, I believe, and in total, just with learning the softwares that they wanted me to use and designing what they wanted me to design. But that was also a good test of like skills and proof that like designs are work for industry. And lastly, I worked at Northrop for 2 summers now, I believe, and I got that job by going to a couple of their events where they only invite honor students, people on Dean's List, and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure Dr. Ye would invite a couple of the IEEE executive board members. And my first summer there was pretty chill. A lot of the work was basic Python and a lot of Excel engineering. I had a lot of extra time on my hands just because of how simple it was. So instead of just like twiddling my thumbs, I'd go around and ask other departments see if they need any help. And I ended up doing a lot of work in basic research over there. And mostly what that was doing various tests for characteristics of semiconductor materials. And other than testing, they also had a lot of problems around the lab. So I would design prototypes to solve those problems. Like, for example, they had this really old furnace that they lost a lot of the supporting documents for. And I'm blanking on the exact temperature it would go up to, but it was on the order of a couple thousand Celsius. So they needed a way to cook semiconductors inside of it while measuring the temperature without burning the lab down or, killing the guy who's just standing next to it. So they needed a new cap because you couldn't really stick a thermocouple or, feeding the semiconductor inside of it without, you wouldn't be able to test it until it cooled down, and they wanted to be able to do that. So I did a lot of stuff there, and that pretty much wraps up my first summer. My second summer, I made it clear that I wanted to be doing actual EE work. So I talked to my manager, and they put me into RFMS, which is mixed signal IC design. And that was, as an intern doing that, it's a big challenge. A lot of the things that they do there is a lot different from what you would do in school. Like, one thing off the top of my head is the way they calculate gain margin and phase margin of their stability systems are completely different. So that was one thing I remember talking to my manager. I was like, hey, like, are you sure your numbers are right here? He's like, yeah. And I show him a couple figures. Like, oh, we do things differently here. So there's a lot that you have to keep up with, and just every day it was very challenging and a lot more different than what my first summer had been. And school can't really entirely prepare you for what you're going to be doing at work. Uh, Pretty much, in my opinion, school is just to prove that you're capable of learning, and anything that you'll learn most of it on the job, especially as an intern. And really, the point of college is just to prove yourself and to prove you're capable. And as an intern, you're just gonna show up and do your best, and that internship will turn into a career. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Mo. So we'll open up questions at the end. So now we'll go on to Eric. Eric, can you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your experiences?
Yeah, so I'm Eric Leva. I graduated recently with the emphasis in electronics as an electrical engineer, and I also did a minor in computer science. So during college, my first job ever was actually my internship at LinkWest. And the way I was able to get that internship was actually networking within the club. There was another fellow club member who who was still working there at LinkWest, and he referred me in. So definitely get to know the various club members. And what I did there is I started off as a systems engineering intern. That's what they brought me on for. But a few weeks in, I realized that they didn't really know what to do with an intern in that field. So I wasn't getting many tasks to do. So I started looking around to see what else is there that I can help with. And that's when I met my mentor, and he was working on he's trying to build this network, and it was like in the testing phases. He was just experimenting most of the time, but that's where I learned most of my software skills. For example, one of the tasks I had to do was I had to create this web page that would display the various contents of a MySQL database. And I know this isn't EE related, but this just goes back to what Danelle said earlier, that as an EE, you can still go into various different fields. So what I did is I created a web page that would display the contents of a MySQL database. And I would use various tools like JavaScript, HTML, and Python. So JavaScript was more for like the front end and displaying the actual content. And this web page was interactive too. So the reason we wanted this was because sending SQL commands to the database was kind of cumbersome for the team. So my mentor wanted like something much more streamlined to do so. So it would display the contents of the database in the form of like a table, and you would just go in, click on one of the cells, and just change some value, or you can do multiple values at the same time. Just more streamlined than sending SQL commands. So that was one of the things I did, and another was I actually implemented a basic form of blockchains into the network to test around with some security features. So blockchains, if you don't know, is this kind of data structure where it's one of the best for security, and it's like great overall because of some key features it has, like and then within the network, it's public, it's decentralized, and it's immutable. So if you make some change within the network, we call that like a transaction. That gets appended into a block, and the block is hashed. So when it's hashed, it means you can't change it anymore, because once you change it, the hash value is going to change itself, and then that's how everyone knows in the network that the block's been changed and it's no longer viable. So yeah, that's a lot of things, a lot of computer software related things I learned in LinkQuest. After that, I moved on to Northrop Grumman. There I interned one summer as a reliability engineer. And there it was a complete shift from everything I've been doing. So at school, I'm mainly doing like electronics projects, and in LinkQuest, I was doing like software. Here, it was more of on the system engineering side. But it wasn't quite for me. And I let my team know there. And one great thing about Northrop is that even if you don't land the right position, you can always move around, and that's exactly what I did. And during that internship there, I didn't just go to work to that reliability engineering job. I also tried doing other things to get some more experience on electronics, and that's where I came across the intern program called Global Summit. If you're ever working for Northrop Grumman as an intern, I highly recommend it. Danelle was also part of it. You actually get a lot of hands-on experience there, but you got to put in a lot of work on it. Basically, what I did there was, we built like this drone. It was a quadcopter, and the goal of that program was to simulate like these wildfire situations. So we would have so there's multiple teams, and there's like 2 planes that were made. One is for surveillance, detecting the fire, quote unquote. This is all simulated. And my project was the drone, which would have these hooks, and they would lift up an RC car. And this RC car was filled. It had a canister for like silly string, and that's what we would simulate as water to put out these fires. And it was a lot of fun, great experience. Highly recommend it if you're ever working in Northrop Grumman. But that was last summer, and now that this summer I have graduated, I started work as an associate electronics engineer. And now I'm actually working on cryo coolers. So what they do is basically it's this machine which has this little area on top of it, and this machine would cool this small area to cryogenic temperatures. And these things are mainly used for sensors. One good example is for the JWEST telescope, the sensor it uses to detect dying stars. It's gonna have one of the cryocoolers built on my team. But mainly what I do there is actually some more coding. So still again, like what Danil said, a lot of we electrical engineers can go into various fields. So what I'm actually programming is this MCU, this ARM MCU, and its task is to send these signals into these actuators, and these actuators are placed around the cooler at a certain axis. And when the cooler starts running, what happens is that because of the way it compresses and decompresses gas, it creates vibrations. And this one customer that wants one of our coolers, they have a certain requirement on vibration, and so they want a certain requirement of vibration, even lower than our best cooler. So now we are implementing this MCU to send these signals out to the actuator to even reduce the vibrations even more. And this is all done in C. So this is more low level programming than I did in LinQuest, but a little more related to the electrical engineering field, more specifically DSP, because you're actually like sampling a sensor, in my case, an accelerometer, because that's what we use to detect the vibrations. And we do a lot of processing, and after that processing, it gets sent out to the actuators. I think that's it for me. I think Frankie's here, right?
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
Okay.
And for the people that weren't able to read the chat, JWEST stands for James Webb Space Telescope. So it's the space telescope that's going to be, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, replacing the Hubble telescope. Right, guys? Eric or Mo?
Yeah, pretty much just a much stronger version of the Hubble.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Now we'll move on to Frankie. Frankie, could you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your multiple internships?
Yeah. First, what's up, Eric? What's up, Parker? Hey, Mo. Long time no see. For those of you guys that don't know me, my name's Frankie Mendez. I'm a senior at Long Beach State, majoring in electrical engineering. I held. Oh, hey, what's up, Michael? I was vice president of IEEE for about a year. So let's start it off. Internship experiences, I've had 3 total. My first one was at SoCal Edison doing telecommunications there. My second was at Fiat Chrysler Automotive, which was in the systems and integration team. So a lot of documents. And my current one, which is where I'm at right now, it's a co-op. So it's an internship for about a month, and then it transitions to full-time. It's for Zoox Inc. Here, I'm a manufacturing engineer intern. However, so many applications for electrical, especially since we're manufacturing autonomous vehicles. Kind of just overview of how I got these internships. The first one was on a whim. I applied to Edison for a systems internship, didn't get it. However, they had a spot open in telecom and they asked me if I wanted to interview. I interviewed, got it. Second one, went to ship conference. I recommend going to any career conference. They basically throw internships at you. That's how I got Fiat. And then Fiat, I think, is what allowed me to actually get an interview at Duke's, it being a startup. And generally, they don't really hire people from Cal States. So having that experience in the automotive industry helped a lot. And also going to workshops as well, just learning how to interview and how to, present yourself and just be smart about it. Let's see, anything else I would like to let you guys know. I would say that I am not the best electrical engineer. However, I think I'm a damn pretty good engineer. And I wouldn't be the engineer that I am if I didn't major in electrical engineering. Electrical is so diverse, everything. You need electricity to power the modern world, and knowing the concepts that I know from the coursework at Long Beach State helps me with my mechanical engineering job right now. So, just don't be discouraged. For the longest time, I'm a transfer student, so I've been in school for about 6 years, and for 2 years I was like, man, I'm not getting internships, and it was devastating, right? Honestly, you guys just have to apply. It's a numbers game, and then use the interviews as, practicing experiences, and never turn down an interview. Always take it. You'll learn something new each time. And yeah, pretty much it for me. I don't want to go into the specifics of what I did at my internships, but I don't know if we're gonna do questions right now, Daniil, or
Yeah, so now we'll open it up to questions for all three of our guest speakers. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and talk, or you can write your questions in the chat and then I'll read it out loud. So if you guys have any questions, feel free right now.
I got one. So this one's for all three of you. I want to know, if you were to run it back, but as all being officers, what do you wish IEEE did differently when you guys were here that we could now improve upon?
I'll go first. Definitely, if we had more fundraising opportunities to streamline, we had micromouse. However, I wish we had more like hands-on and interdisciplinary programs, like especially with other clubs. Baja would be a good one to put on your resume, because the automotive industry, if you have that on your resume, they're give you an interview right then and there. Also, just putting some more emphasis on interviewing and professionalism. I think that lacks right now at Long Beach, and I had to go outside of Long Beach State to, kind of improve those skills. And I honestly think that's what landed me here right now, is just being able, because at the end of the day, when someone hires you, they want to hire someone they want to work with. And I asked a question on one of my interviews, how do you determine good talent? And they said, ultimately, at the end of the day, after, a 9-hour shift, if I could go grab a beer with them, that's someone that I would hire. And I've taken that to heart, and it's got me to where I'm at right now. But yeah, so I think Long Beach State should definitely, especially IEEE, just put more emphasis on the professional development side of interviewing and getting your career goals and stuff like that.
On that note, if you guys haven't already, please check out our general channel on our Discord. We have a collaborative opportunity with SAE on hybrid car, and another collaborative opportunity with AIAA on the rocket and drone projects. So if you guys are interested in those, please feel free to check out the general channel on our Discord and scroll up a little bit, and you can see the 2 Google form links for signing up. So With that being said, Mo or Eric, do you want to talk about this a little bit? What you guys would do differently?
I just agree with Frankie. Not much more I can add. Definitely more hands-on experience. But it sounds like from what Danelle said at the beginning, you guys are already doing that. So yeah, that's my take.
Also, quickly before I forget, please also check out our internship directory channel on our Discord. We post internship opportunities that companies reach out specifically to us in IEEE looking for electrical engineers. So it's a great opportunity for you guys to go and reach out to them and sign up using the links provided because they're specifically looking for electrical engineers. And one of our members, Kevin, he actually was able to land an interview through reaching out to one of the resources. So please take advantage of this opportunity. I'll give it back. So Mo, do you want to talk about this? What you would do differently?
I don't know if there's anything in particular I do differently. I do think you guys are doing a phenomenal job. You guys are doing a very good job of, having a lot more workshops, being a lot more involved. The only thing that stood out to me was there wasn't a way to learn how to use like tools and stuff. And one of the things that I wanted to learn how to do was weld. And obviously, IEEE doesn't have a welding station, and you're not going to use welding in electronics or in EE. So obviously, there's no real need for it. But yeah, that was the one thing I went outside of IEEE to learn how to do. So that probably gives you no help at all.
No, it does. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Soldering's like welding, so you'll do a lot of soldering.
That's pretty much yeah.
Okay, so it looks like Justin has a question specifically for Frankie. Justin asks in the chat, what was it like working in the automotive industry?
So unfortunately, since COVID, my Fiat internship was completely remote. But from what it seemed like, especially going on site to the plant, and they would actually take you to like the track to try out cars and stuff, that seemed kind of fun. The remote side of things, it was cool to see how the things that we drive and use every day, like the amount of planning and documentation going in, that was pretty fascinating, especially from a systems level. My current experience right now in the manufacturing department is pretty rad. It's just going behind the scenes of seeing how these things are made and how everything's just integrated together, and definitely a lot of hands-on work since it's a startup. We're manually assembling things, whereas like at Fiat they would use like robots to assemble them. But it's overall been good. At Fiat there's a lot of traditional stigmas like, hey, I've been here longer, you listen to me. But at Zooks, very different. Little more unprofessional. You'll see a lot of blow ups, but it's been cool. Automotive's getting so broad now. Like, we're basically building a robot that drives where compared to what normally a car, especially with EVs going on and stuff like that. So it's a cool industry to get into because it's a big industry, but it's also a very tight circle. Like adding just any type of automotive or OEMs onto your resume has, like, I'm having people from different companies reach out to me on LinkedIn already because they see what I have on. So it's a tight circle. So
Ricky's talking. Parker's in here. I put look at my name. Is it?
Oh shit.
That's it.
If you guys aren't asking a question, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you. So I have a question for all three of you guys. So if you're an underclassman, what advice would you give to get ahead? So if you guys could go back to your underclassmen days, what advice would you give yourself to get ahead? Mo, can you take the lead for this one?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. So I think I did a pretty good job, getting ahead freshman year. right at the beginning, first semester, I joined IEEE and I started with the free program. And second semester in, I was helping out with the free program. Third or second year, I was executive board. And on top of that, I was always on top of, hey, I'm not going to get an internship. Okay, let me jump into research or something. Personally, I think I did my undergrad about as good as you can get it to be. The only thing I would say maybe is to do more on the project side. Freshman year, I did have a lot more free time. I was able to mess around a lot more. But other than that, I think just doing a few more projects on the side, because I really do feel like I did everything else about as good as you're going to get.
On that note, sorry to plug again, but we have free every Wednesday at 7 p.m. So if you guys are interested in that, please go into the free Discord channel in general and go thumbs up the me message, and that'll let you join the free channel in general, and you'll be updated on all the free workshops. All the free workshops are also posted and recorded and posted, so you can always catch up at a different time. So those resources are available for you. Frankie or Eric, do you guys want to talk about what you would do as an underclassman to get ahead?
Basically, projects. That's what I try to do late in the game. Because at the beginning of college, I just started focusing more on classes rather than doing any extra activities. But because of that, I didn't really have much on my resume to show off. So that's something I did late to the game. But yeah, there's a lot of clubs. Just try to pick the one that's most suited to you. There's like a rocket club if you were interested in that, or you want to do the hybrid car that they were talking about.
If there's one thing I would do differently, is obviously put more of an emphasis on my studies. I definitely am not the greatest student, but if the quicker you break that habit of just doing like, hey, what do I need to do to get by, you'll become way more successful. I had to work a lot harder to get interviews because my GPA wasn't that high. But also, in addition, just get involved, because if you're lacking in one area, you could definitely overcompensate in another, and that's what I did. I got involved, definitely built up my technical skills, just having a diverse portfolio. And I would definitely put more emphasis on my studies.
So Kat in the chat asked, what is free? So free is our freshman retention and electrical engineering program. So it's targeted towards freshmen and non-electrical engineers to build up their electrical engineering skills, so the software and the hardware. Basically, our mentors will take you through a project from the beginning to the end. So from assuming that you know nothing about electrical engineering, so nothing about breadboarding, nothing about Arduino, nothing about coding, and then help you develop those skills through the semester. So by the end, you have a completed project that you can put on your resume on top of having all these skills that you learn that you can start doing your own projects with. So it's a great opportunity to do it. Me and Mo did it our freshman year, and I think that helped us out a lot getting our internships. And then Eric was also one of our free leads, and he also helped teach Michael for free. So a lot of our officers have gone through it. It's a great opportunity, and I strongly encourage you guys, if you haven't already, to come out to these events. I know it sucks a little bit because it's online, but our mentors are like doing a lot of work, and so it's really great. So I have a question for Mo. So how do you feel about the research opportunities at our university, and would you do it again?
So I have mixed feelings about the research opportunities. So depending on what you go into. So personally, I think Build was, kind of a sham. It's much more. They have a much more emphasis on different majors. So engineering, if you want to do research in engineering, Build was not the way to go, unfortunately, and they actually gave me a lot of trouble because of that. What I suggest is if you're seriously interested in research, uh, you know, taking not doing the pay is worth the like not having to deal with their extra stuff. If you want to do research, I suggest using their website to find a professor that's doing research, and then just go talk to that professor directly and say, "Hey, like, look, what you're doing really interests me, and I want to work with you." You know, and a lot of professors are pretty open to accepting students. Really, if you have a likable personality, they'll tend to take you. But if you know that you're not sure about it, but you still want to try it, I would suggest not going after a professor in double E, because if you go to one professor and you want to do research with them and you end up not liking it and you leave them, hey, the only professor who teaches 400D is that professor you have a bad impression with, and they'll actually remember you because you did research with them and you left them. So yeah, that would probably be a bad situation to be in. But yeah, if you want to do research, look through Bill's website. They have a lot of different research opportunities there, and find the professor you want to work with and just talk to them directly. Does that answer your question, Dino?
Yeah, for sure. So Dakota in the chat asked a question for all three of you guys, I think. So he asked, what is the best way to handle classes and internships during the semester?
Time management. It really comes down to time management. Cut out. Personally, I would cut out anything and everything that didn't need to be done. Unfortunately, that also included family and friends. Really, just you have to get the work done. That's all there is to it. And if you let yourself be distracted by small things and things that don't really matter and things that won't really help you in the long run, then you're really only hurting yourself. You got to bite the bullet, settle down, and really just get it done.
Frankie or Eric, do you guys want to add anything more or talk about your experiences, since you guys both had internships during the semester too?
Yeah, this is where I admire Mo, because his time management skills were way more comprehensive than mine. Like I said, I'm not the greatest student. I was that student that studied the day before the test or hours before the test and just did bare minimum to get by. But that the stress associated with that was not worth it. I would say that I could tell you what not to do by following what I did. Learn how to say no. I definitely your yes man person. I like to take on more than I could chew because I don't like saying no to people. But the stress that came with it was not worth it, and you could definitely see it in my grades. So time management, put emphasis on your grades, and also though know when to take a break and kind of you know train yourself or condition yourself to have like if you study for an exam and you do well on it, reward yourself, because that will classically train you to want to do more and more like that. So just yeah.
Eric, do you have anything else to add on about your experiences interning and going through classes?
I don't have much to add. Just only thing would be like create your workspace. Like when you go to work, you're there to work. When you go in class, you're to class, and then you need to make that workspace for when you have to study. So choose a space that you designated to study in, and just complete your task there.
For sure. Does anybody have any questions in the audience that they would like to ask our guest speakers? Feel free to unmute yourself or message the chat right now and you guys can ask.
I have a question. How would I start getting into developing my own projects and ideas when starting from virtually nothing?
I would honestly buy your generic Arduino kit off Amazon and just go on the forums, go on Instructables. I think the cheapest kit right now is like $18 or something like that. So it's somewhat manageable. It's not your $150, 3-dot board, but it's way more advanced. There's so many forums, so many project lists that you could do it, and then just getting yourself familiar with it is just helps tremendously.
So I have another thing to add on to that. So if you're interested in learning like the Arduino basics and stuff, we have a workshop coming up on Saturday, October 10th, and that'll be the basics of Arduino, going through using Arduino IDE to program something small and just get you familiar with it so you can start experimenting on your own. So keep a lookout for that. It'll be posted in the announcements channel. So Mo or Eric, do you have anything else to add on to how you can get started in working on a project?
Honestly, Google. Like, once you have an idea, you use kind of like storyboard it, just draw it out, start doing block diagrams to kind of figure out what direction you want to take it, and then just start researching each section. The question was a little bit too broad and too vague in order to give a really concrete answer. But a lot of times when I wanted to do something, the very first thing I'd Google it, watch related YouTube videos about it, try to understand a little bit more about what I'm really getting myself into, and just trial and error. You just gotta try something eventually and try to build something. And if it doesn't work, go back to the start. Go back to scratch, figure out where your problem is, and just do more research about it.
And for your power folk, don't I learned this the hard way. I just be careful, because when you're working with line voltages, I blew out the breaker in my apartment like last week trying to build a power supply. So start off small with like maybe like a 12-volt or like a 5-volt battery or something, and then make some like Arduino stuff. But yeah, just be safe.
Eric, do you have anything to add?
No, everything's been said.
Sure. I think Michael had something that he wanted to add on to this. Do you want to go for it, Michael?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say, if you're looking to get started on a project, like Mo said, it is kind of vague, but depending on where your skill level is, if you do already have some experience and you kind of know where you want to go, but I assume that you don't, and that's why you're asking. And if you have no idea where to start, feel free to reach out to one of the officers, ask us like, hey, I'm trying to build this, and we can give you an idea of where to go. Because yes, Google will be a smart place, but if, like I said, if you don't have a lot of experience in just basic electronics, you don't even know what to do with that Google information. So just feel free reaching out, and we'll help try leading you in the right direction.
For sure. So does that, hopefully that answers your question. Does anybody else have any questions? We have time for one more question.
I had another question. In my engineering 101 class, I'm the only electrical engineer. Is there like a community I can join or be a part of to have people with the same major as I?
IEEE.
Send in the Discord link.
So yeah, IEEE is, we're the Institute of Electrical and Electronical Engineers, so we're like the community for electrical engineers. If you haven't already, please join our Discord. So let me just scroll back up to our Discord. So this is our QR code. If you can scan it. That'll let you join the Discord. And our Discord is the best way to like get in touch with all the other electrical engineers in College of Engineering, and find people with similar mindsets and similar interests in projects, so that you can start working on stuff like that. Hopefully that answers your question about the community. So with that being said, I would like to thank everybody for coming out to our event. Thank you. Special thanks to all of our guest speakers, Frankie, Mo, Eric. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and talk with us. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to go into our Discord and go into the questions channel and ask. And thank you. The recording of this will be posted later today. So if you guys just want to go back and review something, feel free.
Thanks, guys. Last message: use LinkedIn. It's your tool to get interviews, and just be active and network. Having a big network will allow for more interviews. So good luck. Feel free to reach out. Thanks, Anil. Thanks, Michael. You guys are doing a great job. I wish I had your enthusiasm.
Thanks, Frankie.
All right, later, guys.